And so that's one of the things that the Quran teaches us, that all of these messengers taught exactly the same thing, and in many cases said exactly the same thing, even if they said it in different languages. But beyond that, you find other commonalities between prophets. What you find between all of the prophets, or the vast majority of them, if you study them carefully, is that all of them had challenges with their family. All of them had some kind of difficulty within their own family. So Ibrahim alayhi salam had a challenge with his father, and then he had a major trial with his son, that Allah tested him with his son. You have Nuh alayhi salam's wife and his son. You have Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his uncles. You have, think of any prophet or messenger, you find some sort of a trial or difficulty associated with a family member. And that's important, because Allah Azza wa Jal taught our messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرْ لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. Remind, because all you are is someone who's meant to remind. Your only job is to deliver something that will help people remember. That's it. You are not in charge of them at all. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. You're not in control over them. Saytara in Arabic is control. And the messenger is being told, no matter how much you remind them, when you remind somebody or you give somebody advice, you're hoping they'll take your advice. It's logical, it's good for them, you mean it in good intention. Why wouldn't they listen to you? And when you give somebody advice out of concern and love for them and they don't listen to you, it's frustrating. Why aren't they listening? I told them, I even clarified to them why I'm telling them this. They know it's good for them and they're still not listening to me. And a kind of a frustration and an anger builds inside you. And that frustration, it may not be because you're arrogant, maybe it may not be because you want people to be under your command, but it may simply be because you want them to change for their own good. And that's what the Prophet wanted, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for his people. And yet many of them wouldn't change. I'm reminded most powerfully of what happens at the passing of Abu Talib. Abu Talib is an uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, who's not like Abu Lahab. He's not like Abu Jahl. His other uncles were adamantly against Islam. They insulted him, they attacked him. Abu Lahab was the most vicious of them. He even celebrated when the Prophet's child passed away. Next door neighbor, celebrating that he heard that a baby just died. How sick is that? And that's his uncle, And so he experienced incredible amounts of suffering at the hands of his family. But Abu Talib was a support. Abu Talib protected the Prophet ﷺ. He took charge of him. And he even brought him back securely back into Makkah. So, there's so many things that Abu Talib did for, you could say, not just the Prophet, but actually for Islam. But he didn't accept Islam. Until his dying breath, he wouldn't accept it. He was close, but he just couldn't get himself to do it. He just didn't take it. And that hurt the Prophet so much, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that someone who loves him, not just someone who hates him, someone who loves him, someone who cares for him, someone he cares for also, like a father figure, and he just won't listen to the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, think about this for a moment. Nobody can give a better speech, and nobody can make a better argument, and nobody can present something more lovingly than the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the best teacher for all of humanity. So Abu Talib had the best teacher with the best message and the best opportunity to learn this message. There was nothing missing. Everything that could be done was being done. And yet he's still not listening. And so this pain that maybe the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he do wrong? What's missing? Why won't he just accept? And so Allah told the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam something very heavy that I want you to really think about today. And that's the words of Allah when Abu Talib passed away. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. You certainly are not the one who guides whoever you love. You're not in charge of guiding whoever you love. Now, I love my children. You can love your spouse. You can love your parents. You can love your brother or your sister. We have love for family. The Prophet ﷺ's love can never be compared. The kind of love he had, the kind of heart, we can never compare. And that love makes you want the best things for the person you love. Which is why the Prophet ﷺ wants guidance for Abu Talib. That's the best thing you can have. The ultimate gift would be guidance, and Allah has given the ultimate gift of guidance to the Messenger ﷺ, and his loving uncle didn't take it. He didn't take this profound gift. It's so painful, and Allah taught him a very heavy reality, and through that painful experience of the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us a reality. You, for sure, are not the one who guides whoever you love. You know, every time we read about the Prophet ﷺ and something painful that he went through, you have to understand something. Allah put him through trials and difficult experiences, not because Allah wants him to go through difficult experiences. Allah loves him more than anyone else. This is the most beloved creation of Allah. So you have to ask yourself, why is Allah putting His messenger through these painful experiences? Because he is rahmatan lil alameen. Because he's a mercy and a teacher and a care and an act of love from Allah for all people forever to come. In other words, you and I are going to have people that we love. You and I are going to have people in our life that we want to see guided, that we want to see change, and we're not going to see them change no matter what we do. And it's going to be frustrating. What are we supposed to do? I've tried everything. I've tried speaking softly. I've tried gently reminding. I've tried this and I've tried that and I've tried the other, and nothing's working. I don't know what to do. They seem to be getting even further away. And it is in these moments that we have to remind ourselves of the exact same pain that the Prophet ﷺ felt at people like his uncle. And by the way, it's not even limited to his uncle. In the Arabic language, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ, this is called al-a'id, al-damir al-a'id in grammar. So the expected language is إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَهُ. There's a damir expected. But there's a hadful damir, there's a pronoun missing. And what that does is that the ayah is not even limited to the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. The ayah is actually open to his love for all people and all, the entire Quraysh, all of humanity. The Prophet ﷺ's burden was not just his family. The Prophet ﷺ's burden out of love for humanity was actually all of humanity. Whoever would not listen. Whoever would not listen. Can you imagine the analogy he gave ﷺ about his love for giving people guidance? He would compare himself to someone standing in front of a fire, and these insects and these moths, they get attracted to the light and they fly right into the fire. And he's trying to shoo them away. Like literally like you get those zappers, bug zappers and stuff in homes that attract the bugs because of the light, And he's trying to get them away from there. You're going to kill yourself. You're attracted to something that's going to destroy you. And he's trying to push them away. That's the incredible love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And yet Allah told him, actually, your only job is to remind people. Your only job is to deliver a message in a loving, caring way. But what they do from there on, بَلِ الْإِنسَانَ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرًا. A person has to be in full view of their own self. Everybody's responsible for themselves. When I travel and sometimes people see me at a restaurant and recognize me, and then after wanting a selfie, they want to have a conversation or whatever, and we sit down and have a chat. And when we have a chat, a lot of times it's about their family. This is my daughter, and she used to pray. She used to pray every single day, and until she was 12, 13 years old, I made sure she prayed all her prayers. And then by the time she got 18, she went to college. And now I don't know if she prays anymore. What can you tell her? Tell her something that can translate. So, and the daughter's sitting next to her, rolling her eyes like, oh God, here we go again. She's being put on the spot. So first of all, I apologize to the daughter, sorry. And the mom even tells me, I send her all your videos. And so I'm sorry that she sends you my videos. First of all, let me apologize about that. But after that, the thing is that we have to understand something. Allah we believe Allah controls every leaf on every tree. Allah controls every movement of every honeybee. Allah who controls every step that every ant takes. And I ask, do you believe in this control that Allah has? Yeah, I do. Then why do you think you can control your child? Who's in charge? Who's going to control the outcome for our kids? What they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Once they become adults, then their choices are theirs to make. We have to understand our only job can be to remind, but even that so gently, And some parents, it's not just about parents, it could be siblings or spouses, whoever else. We start thinking, no, that's all I do is just remind. But yeah, nagging is not the same as reminding. Sarcasm is not the same as reminding. Criticizing someone or making someone feel like scum is not the same as reminding. Embarrassing someone is not the same as reminding. Oh, you didn't pray, did you? No, but I remind very gently. How do you remind? You're just going to burn in hell if you keep this up. This is not the way you remind someone. This is not the way you're hoping they dress the way you'd like them to, that they behave the way you like them to, they pray the way, and then ask a hard question to people who want to do that. I just wish my son would pray. And your son comes over to the house to visit. He works in some different city. He comes to visit you. And when he visits you, you say, pray, pray, pray. And then he prays, fine. And when he prays, why did he pray? I mean, if he was going to verbalize his intentions, they're not going to be, I'm about to pray the Dhuhr Salah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's going to say, I'm going to pray 4 rak'ah because my mother won't leave me alone. Allahu Akbar. Those intentions are not for Allah anymore. He didn't do that for Allah. So what good is it? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are only good if their intentions are right. Doesn't everybody know that? So if we're trying to control what somebody else does, and now they're doing it because we wanted them to do it, and we forced them to do it, or we pressured them to do it, or we nagged them into doing it, then they're doing it for the wrong reasons, which makes it completely worthless. It's utterly worthless. And so here, what the messenger is being taught is a profound, heavy truth. We are not in control. We're not in charge. We cannot control any other human being in what they do. No one. No matter how much we love them. No matter how much we think we're responsible for them. And that's the next thing. Parents feel like they're responsible. A spouse might feel like they're responsible. An older brother or a sister might feel like they're responsible. But I'm responsible. My younger brother is drifting away. He's doing bad stuff. I need to stop him. I'm responsible for him. A father might feel responsible. A mother might feel responsible. The thing is, nobody's ever going to feel more responsible than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nobody. Nobody will ever have more of a sense of responsibility. And he did feel the burden, the pain of people not listening, of people drifting away. He did feel that pain. And yet Allah told him there's a reality that even if it's in your mind, your heart forgets it. And your heart needs to remember that you cannot guide whoever you love. And when you see the one you love going in harm's way, if you saw your child, going towards a swimming pool and they don't know how to swim, if you saw somebody heading towards a car crash, if you saw that, you'd want to stop them. That's what naturally we want. That's a protective, sense that Allah put inside all human beings. We want to protect those that we love. But we have to do it after understanding that when it comes to guidance, when it comes to changing somebody's behavior, that we have to follow the model given to our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he's being told, your only job is to remind, you are not in control. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. You are not in control over them at all. You cannot guide whoever you love. Allah, in fact, He guides whoever He wants. Sometimes people are in the best environment. Let's take that a step further. Sometimes people are in the best environment. They're brought up in the masjid. They're around people that remember Allah all the time. The best environment. Everybody around them is good. And you assume that if a person is in a very good environment, that their upbringing is going to be good. That they're going to turn out okay, And on the other hand, if somebody's brought up in a very bad environment, then they're going to turn out bad. But think about that. When Allah decided that Ibrahim alayhi salam is going to be guided, he was in the worst possible environment. Nobody believed. Everybody around him was doing shirk. All he saw around him was idols. When the young people of the cave decided to turn to Allah, they're not even prophets. There's no good environment around them. They're young, they're wealthy, they can do whatever they want with their life, and yet Allah turned their heart. And they turned. Meaning, your environment doesn't decide whether or not you're going to turn out okay. That's not what decides it. On the other hand, you have the city of Medina. How many people would wish, if Allah gave us the opportunity to live in Medina at the same time as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Anybody would take that wish, any believer would take it, yeah, I'd love to be there. I'll take it. I'll give up anything to be there. In the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the city of Medina. And yet you have some of the worst hypocrites that have ever lived, living in the city of Medina, in close proximity to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Are they not in the best environment? They are. They're actually praying in the first row behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some of the leaders of the munafiqeen. The environment doesn't decide whether or not you're going to be a good person or a bad person. That's not going to decide. When Allah decides to guide you, then none of the misguiding factors have any effect. When Allah decides that if you walk away from Allah's guidance, you could be in the best environment, it won't make any change. So we start assuming that maybe we can control our children's behavior or anybody's behavior if we change their environment completely. I want to give them a different kind of environment. I want to give them a more suitable environment. The best environment is actually a supportive environment from a person. It's not society, it's not the street, it's not the school, it's not the outside world. It's the world inside the family. That's actually the ultimate influence. Think about this. You have this child, Yusuf alayhi salam, just a kid, tells his dad a dream. He just saw a dream. And his dad tells him not to tell his brothers, and encourages him and reminds him of Allah. What we learn as a hint from the Quran is from an early age, his father actually gave him some good lessons in life. How to remember Allah. How to keep conscious of Allah in your life as a child. And clearly his family is not a good family situation. His brothers are no good. We learned that early on. So it's not like he's in a very healthy family environment. And soon after that, he's kidnapped, he's taken away. He's now a servant in a non-believing society, which means there's no believing influence left. Later on in his life, he's in jail. Obviously, jail's not a good environment. So most of his early life, he spent in a bad environment. Most of his early life was in a terrible environment, yet that did not control his guidance. That did not dictate what kind of person he's going to be. But good influence, good reminder from his father had an effect. Our job is to remind each other lovingly. Our job is not to control. Our job is not to get anxious and frustrated with those that we love when they don't behave the way we want them to behave. This is actually not the way of the Prophets ﷺ. I'll add one more thing, and that's important. When people find, sometimes, many of us are, because we're in the information age, we discover things about our deen later on in life. Some of us were brought up Muslim, in Muslim families, and we didn't really know why we're Muslim except that our parents are Muslim, right? So we just kind of took it for granted that we're Muslim. And when you move to a different part of the world, or you're in a city or somewhere else, and you are now exposed to a life that doesn't really go with Islam. You don't really know why you're Muslim to begin with, why your family practices or believes these things to begin with. Islam just gets reduced to just a few rituals, just some things that we do. Maybe prayer, maybe some Muslims just Fridays, or at least we go for the Eid prayer. That's what it gets reduced to. Or at least I think Ramadan's coming, so yeah, there's a diet season coming. So Ramadan or Islam gets reduced and reduced and reduced. But for some people later on in their life, they discover Islam again. They rediscover their faith. They realize, whoa, this is serious. This is Allah talking to me. They rediscover Allah's book. They rediscover Allah's messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they become more serious about their religion. They change. They experience a transformation. Then when they change, obviously everybody around them notices that they've changed, right? They don't dress the same way anymore. They don't talk the same way anymore. They don't hang out the same places anymore. Their socializing has changed. Everything changes. Everything around you changes. But what happens, unfortunately, with people that change like that, especially parents who change like that, they're so eager and so excited to want their children to change immediately too. Because I made so many mistakes when I was younger, I never want my children to make those mistakes. I don't want my 18-year-old or 20-year-old to make the same mistakes. So they start getting so excited to give their children what they now found. But the way they do that can be so overbearing. The way they do that can be so overexcited, they don't even realize they're doing more damage than good. They're trying to be musaytir. They're trying to be in control. They're not doing it for bad intention, they're doing it out of love. But we have to remind ourselves, when you do that, when you try to enforce something, nag something, when you try to overdo something, instead of bringing somebody closer to Allah's deen, you're actually pushing them further away. So you find conversations between parents and kids where the mom says the same, she brings up deen in some way, she brings up prayer, she brings up hijab, she brings up whatever, and the son says or the daughter says, oh, I gotta go. I'll talk to you later, mom. Because now every time you bring up the deen, you bring up religion, it's an allergic reaction. And you created that, not them. And then you say, maybe I'll send Ustad Nouman videos, that's going to help. And you know what? Those videos, I'm now in their spam folder. And I'm blocked on social media because looking at my face gives those kids an allergic reaction. Like, oh, here we go. This guy reminds me of all the times my mother yells at me. Or other people like me. Oh, you know what he said? You know what this one said? You know what? You should watch this video. You should do this. No. Stop. Easy. Take a step back. The first thing is actually love itself. When you show someone love, when you show someone care, we're so eager to make someone listen to what we have to say. How often is it that we're listening to what they have to say? When someone's struggling, how often are we listening to them? This is actually a big difference between us and other faith communities. I'll tell you a story before I conclude about how do you bring people's hearts closer to yourself. Some time ago, I actually attended a church gathering. Just want to see what these guys do. So it's like a Wednesday night, and the preacher speaks for like 5 minutes. He says whatever he says. And then the most interesting thing happens. He asks the crowd, so who's having a problem? Tell me about it. Some guy, I just lost my job. It's been tough. All right, everybody pray for Jeff. Everybody starts praying for Jeff. And somebody, I just got divorced. She took the house. You know, everybody pray for, and then this woman, I just got diagnosed with cancer. And everybody's praying for her. And then this guy in the corner says, he lost a job? Talk to me afterwards. There's an opening in my company. And they start, you know, because what brings them closer together was not that this guy is going to speak for hours and hours and they're going to sit there and listen. Actually, they were drawn to this gathering because they have a place where they can be heard, where they can feel supported. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was an amazing listener. We think of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as an amazing speaker. Yes, he was. But he's also an incredible listener. A lot of times, the people whose hearts you want to affect, you and I start thinking, if we just talk to them, they'll change. Let me tell you, more than talking to people, we have to learn to listen to people. We have to learn to listen to people. And when you listen to people, you don't listen to just answer them and argue back, or before you even finish hearing what they have to say, you already have 10 answers for them. No. Just listen. Don't listen with a pre-programmed, I'm going to answer them real good. You know, there are some people that are listening to a question halfway through. Let me tell you what. No. Just listen. Just listen. This is not a debate. It's not a contest. You're not going to crush them with evidence. This is not going to be some sort of a competition where you're going to answer them real good and everybody's going to go takbir. No. None of that. None of that. Your job is just to be a good listener first. Let people say what they have to say. Let your family members air out what they feel. And you have to first, if you can't empathize, one of the qualities of the Prophet ﷺ, بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. The Prophet ﷺ is ra'uf, which means extremely empathetic. Meaning he goes out of his way to try to understand what others are feeling. What others are feeling. So many times you find narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, people came to him and said, I need this, I need this, I need this. You don't find the Prophet ﷺ going directly to them and saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. They're coming to him and telling him their problem. This is the level of comfort that they have with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And today, anybody who even looks religious or represents the religion, people don't want to come to them, they want to run away from them. Oh, if I just go anywhere close, the lecture is going to start. I don't want to do that. So this, internalizing that you and I are not in control. Our job is to give gentle reminder. And we cannot do so if we don't become good, empathetic listeners. If we don't empathize with the feelings that you don't have to agree with somebody else's feelings, but everybody's entitled to their feelings. Everybody has feelings that they have to work through. And we have to be able to do that. We have to be, especially for those that we love. May Allah Azza wa Jal soften our hearts towards those that we love and make us better able to listen to them. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us wise in the way that we give reminder. And may Allah Azza wa Jal make us humble that even when we give advice, that doesn't mean that we know everything. But we should actually always remain humble that we are students ourselves. We're learning ourselves. And so that He make us careful about the advice that we give, that it's actually based on sound knowledge.